Cool. So when do we use displacement instead of modeling a detail? And displacement is not typically a substitute for modeling, but there are times when it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're crunched for time. If modeling certain details is going to take a lot of your time, especially if you don't even know if that detail is part of the final design, you may be better off just trying to use a displacement map to see how it's going to look. So a displacement's good for previs before you've really decided on a final design. So when you're going to model, let's say knurling or some sort of ribbing that say wraps around, say like a cylinder or something, that would be really hard to model in CAD for the most part. And in this case, in KeyShot, it's pretty easy. And then also when the form that we're working with isn't too complex. And what I mean is if we were to consider like a cylinder is not terribly complex, but if we have a really organic surface that's going to require some advanced mapping, then that might make displacement a little bit harder to use. So those are my main suggestions. And just to give an example here, inside of KeyShot, let's go ahead and look at, let's go ahead and bring back our camera. And actually with this button, interesting, or not this button, this little guy down here. So this guy, let's turn on denoise. I'll get rid of this graininess, which is really nice. So inside here, we've got, let's make sure that our denoise is turned up a little bit. Okay, this little piece here, I'm gonna rotate it around this grip because, actually maybe I'm not gonna do that at all. Let's just go ahead and take a look at its material. We've got, inside our material graph, we have a number of different sub materials set up. And in this case, we have this rubber up here. It's a plastic with a little texture on it, and it's got a displacement node and a texture. So if we preview this texture, it's a little grid, tactile little bumpy grid, and displacement's gonna actually put those textures right onto our model. So if I were to take this and enable this submaterial by just selecting it from the list, we'll see that the displace function takes place. And if we don't see it, I suspect that I made this happen. There we go. Comes in a little bit slow. And it's a little bit dark, so let's go ahead and make sure that we're in a lighting environment that makes this easier to see. So I've got quite a few going on in here because I didn't know which one we want to use. All right, so if we hide everything else and we look at this piece, you can see on the back side, we've got just this kind of bumpy, tactile sort of surface. And then that's gonna be able to, that would take me a long time to model, and KeyShot it, setting up that texture took all of probably 3 minutes, and now it looks, it looks pretty good for how little effort went into setting it up. So from here, if we wanted to, we could go ahead and bring back this entire camera. And let's say I want to rotate this around so I only have that texture showing. Boom. Now we've got a camera with a different grip on it. And the other side I had to model, but in this case, I didn't have to model, but it was modeled. So in this case, we have these little dots. But now if I wanted to change this into those lines, I could totally do that just by going in and modifying the texture that's controlling this material here.